35 days into Donald Trump's Iran war, and there's also a purge happening at the Pentagon. Yesterday, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth asked the Army's top general to step down from his role and retire immediately. Army Chief of Staff General Randy George made it almost 3 of his 4 years in the position as a Biden appointee. The Pentagon confirmed the firing but did not give a reason why. He's not the only official on Hegseth's chopping block. 2 additional Army generals were also fired alongside George. 2 defense officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity told the Washington Post. According to The Atlantic, quote, officials at the White House are also discussing the future of Army Secretary Dan Driscoll, a close friend of Vice President Vance. People familiar with the matter told us. One Pentagon official said Driscoll was expected to leave the department soon. Hegseth has been waging this purge of the Pentagon for weeks. Reports allege Hegseth has personally moved to stall or block the military promotions for more than a dozen senior officers. Hegseth's poll numbers show he has limited credibility with the American people. This week, before the firing, Hegseth's job approval rating hit an all-time low of 35%. That means 65% disapprove of Secretary Hegseth's performance in the middle of a war. Our next guest, Tom Nichols, is calling this Hegseth's war on the American military. In an article for The Atlantic, Nichols writes, quote, America is now engaged in its biggest conflict in decades, with thousands of troops headed into possible combat on the shores of a country the size of Alaska with more than 3 times the population of North Korea. And with a president whose only formal speech on the war so far consisted of 19 minutes of jumbled thoughts. The American people deserve to know why so many of their top officers are being tossed out of their jobs. Pete Hegseth has never shown a willingness to explain himself to the public, nor has he demonstrated the character required to take that kind of responsibility. But now that Randy George, along with other senior officers Hegseth has fired or pushed to resign, are about to be civilians, maybe they can step forward and tell their fellow citizens what on earth is going on in Hegseth's Pentagon. And joining us now is Tom Nichols, Professor Emeritus at the U.S. Naval War College. He is also a staff writer at The Atlantic. Tom, terrific piece. Thank you for being here. Pete Hegseth's purge of top military officials, what does it do from an effective leadership standpoint?
Well, it forces everyone else in the institution to have to scramble and, bring in somebody new and then get everybody up to speed. I mean, leadership changes even in ordinary times, even in less fraught times, cause a certain amount of disorganization. But there's also the question that it raises in the minds, I think, of the American public, certainly in my mind, as you're heading into a war and suddenly as you're in the middle of war and suddenly the top Army general is cashiered. And of course, the first thing you wonder is, did he do something wrong? Is there a problem? Is there a crisis? Is there some fundamental policy disagreement about the direction of the war? And instead, thanks to good reporting by people who have had to report on the Pentagon, despite Pete Hegseth's considerable restrictions, what we're finding is that Hegseth's firings are mostly about Hegseth. They're about his fear of being replaced by Dan Driscoll. They're about his crusade to prove to MAGA world and to President Trump that he's going to root out minority and female officers that he thinks don't belong in the military. I mean, it is really, it's really a way to create a mess in the middle of a giant military operation.
And because we're in the middle of a giant military operation, why is it important for the American people to understand why top military officers are being tossed out of their jobs?
Well, think about it. If you had a son or a daughter on their way to the Gulf or serving there now, and suddenly the Army Chief of Staff is summarily fired with no explanation, you'd want to know what's going on. You'd want to know why that is. Donald Trump is very frustrated by the fact that the public has never been in favor of this war and that his numbers keep dropping. Well, a big part of it is the utter lack of transparency from the White House and the Pentagon about why we're at war, who's running it, what's going on. And in the midst of all this, you have this incredibly unqualified talk show host firing people, loyal and distinguished officers who have served their country for decades.
News of the shootdown was broadcast all over Iranian TV, with the anchor telling viewers they would receive a reward for capturing the service members alive and turning them over to authorities. That's according to the Associated Press. Videos on social media showed American refueling aircraft and helicopters flying low and slow over the region where those pilots went down. Part of a rare and dangerous search and rescue mission here. A U.S. official tells MS Now that at least one Black Hawk helicopter on that mission was fired on, and several crew members were injured. That helicopter made it back, and the operation safely rescued one of the downed F-15 crew members. The other remains unrecovered. In military terms, duty status and whereabouts unknown. It is the first known instance of a U.S. aircraft shot down over Iran. And 2 U.S. officials say that it came around the same time that a second Air Force combat jet, an A-10, like you see there.
Breaking news that's sending shockwaves through political and military circles. Former President Donald Trump has reportedly fired Pete Hegseth, the well-known Fox News host and military commentator. This comes in the wake of reports that an F-15 fighter jet was shot down during a sensitive operation earlier this week. The timing of this move has raised eyebrows and sparked intense speculation about what's really going on behind the scenes. Pete Hegseth has long been a fixture in conservative media, known for his outspoken support of Trump and frequent commentary on military and veterans affairs. But insiders now suggest that his firing was directly linked to the fallout surrounding the F-15 incident. While official statements remain scarce, the connection appears to be more than coincidental. Experts warn that losing an advanced aircraft like an F-15 is a serious event with broad implications, and the scrutiny that follows often extends beyond just military leadership. Analysts note that Hegseth's media role often blurred the line between reporting and commentary. Some sources suggest he may have shared information in public forums that was too sensitive, potentially putting operational security at risk. Whether intentional or not, the consequence is clear. His position became untenable. The decision to remove him sends a message that accountability matters, even for those closest to Trump. The optics of this firing are striking. Hegseth has been a loyal advocate and high-profile supporter of Trump, particularly in matters of national security and military affairs. Removing someone with that level of visibility is a strong statement, signaling that loyalty alone may not be enough when national security stakes are high. Insiders hint that this could be part of a broader strategy to reassess Trump's media and advisory team, especially regarding sensitive defense matters. The F-15 incident itself is described by military analysts as unprecedented. Losing such an advanced aircraft is always significant, but in this case, it appears to highlight potential intelligence gaps or operational challenges. This puts a spotlight on anyone in Trump's orbit who may have commented publicly on military operations, whether directly or indirectly. The firing of Hegseth could be seen as a precautionary move to stabilize messaging and maintain operational integrity.